all sorts of parts and components that you have to have everything aligned exactly perfect so it fits together, so you can show the relationships. So we're in graph progress right now. The graphs and paperwork for Cathar 4 is probably going to be 6 months. I'll let you know that now. However, you could wait 6 months and not be part of the activations that are happening in the planet now, or you can be here, struggle with me through graphs that have part of the pictures there, most of the pictures, but probably not the words. And we take it from there and get the information as soon as it's being released on planet, literally, which is what is happening. Or we could wait 6 months and have a pretty book to look at. Personally, I would rather have both at the same time, but it's not an option. So again, we're going to, with this workshop, hopefully we'll run on time, which is not too hard to do. It doesn't matter exactly what time you're going to run yet. Tomorrow, there's grid work, which is the grid work that this workshop is about. It's interesting. It's a Cathar 4 introduction workshop to the healing, but it's also part of planetary healing. Cathar 4 is going to bring in information, and again, it's catered to the healing applications as opposed to the broader perspectives of, high ascension and fallen races and history and all that we've been dealing with for such a long time. But it is going to bring in directly the environmental factors. And the most significant environmental factor on this planet is the fact that its axis is tilted. What does that do to your body? What does that do to our energy bodies? And that's what we're learning about here. So grid work is actually part of what Cathar 4 is. This workshop has a tremendous amount of it, most of it easy. We're going to be doing what's called site seeding, which is the beginning of learning how to do remote grid work, which will be very helpful in the future when it might be harder to move around. Be it weather issues or governmental issues or whatever. There may come a time when there are activations needed in the planetary grids that will help the planet through the changes it's going through, and we just won't be able to show up because we can't get there if there's not transportation for some reason or whatever. So we're being given instruction now on something called grid seeding, and it's the ability to, when you can get there, drop what you need to, and then later activate a bunch of sites together through remote work. And that's what we're going to be doing here. We're going to be doing grid seeding all the way down the Michael-Mary line, as they say, which is part of the turnstile matrix that we talked about a couple of years ago. That's all linked into the beast machine and the Metatronic seed atom. We're going to be seeding the grids on our way down and seeding them at some interesting sites and that kind of thing. And we're going to, in progress, we have 2 workshop days, 2 full workshop days, which will be Sunday and Monday. Okay, so that's where we're going to get whatever is anchored by then on Cathar 4, which is quite a lot. It's getting exciting, the information that's coming in on Cathar 4. We introduced in Belize, on the Belize trip, information on the Pillar of Power. And this is much more intense than I had ever imagined. This is information that's been on security clearance that even the Iani need security clearance to access. It's from the Adani matrix, and that's the mother matrix out of which the Eka here and all of our systems and their systems came from. So we're being given a very special gift of direct knowledge of the operations of the Pillar of Power. The Pillar of Power is what creates atoms. It's what creates light units and sound. It is literally something within us. It's kind of funny. Our scientists look out there and say, yes, there was a big bang somewhere, and all these atoms and molecules that were released from something that exploded, from a star that exploded. And stars generate different types of atoms inside themselves. But what we realize is so do people. We haven't been able to engage this process in a very long time on this planet because the planet's ability to manufacture its own life force and renew its own life spark has been dampened for many thousands of years. Earth is going through a healing itself now because ultimately there will always be a part of the planet that will not fall. It refuses to. You might have 90% of it going, but there will be a part that will regenerate, even if it's an atom of what that planet was composed of, that will hold the memory matrix for the entire planet and everything that ever happened there. This planet's going to have a lot more than an atom left, but it is going through transitions. The healing process involves the reactivation of the Pillar of Power within the planetary core. And this brings the planet itself in confrontation with something called the gravitron. This is a machine, actually. It is a machine that generates unnatural gravitational fields and mutates what atoms, actually what quarks do in the process of forming things like protons and neutrons. So the pillar of power is literally the generator plant inside of the body, inside of the planetary body, and we have one too. We're being given information now that shows how, through this pillar of power, our chakras are formed, what those things are in the first place. And we've learned, basically, we've gone back to the core. When we started with Kathara healing went to the core template, the density template, and part of Kai, part of K, and part of Come. And it's been moving forward back toward manifestation from there. Now we're getting information on the externalization phase. Kathara 2-3 is the bridge between what we see on the outside and the core template information we were learning. So we could learn that there was a distortion back in the core template, that you're not going to fix anything on the outside until you go back to the core where the problem is and fix it there. We've learned how to progressively work our way through the template, moving upward. Now we're in this space that exists between templates and manifestation. That space you can refer to as the etherics. Now, etheric is a word that gets thrown around a lot in the New Age movement, and it got thrown around a lot in Atlantis. It's a word that actually refers to very specific frequency currents that are made of very specific spark units from very specific flames from very specific places. We're going to learn about how currents form in the first place. We're going to learn about something called the ethos, the eros, the etheric body systems, the catheric body systems, and the radon cells, which are photoflame cells, or photocells, that are self-generating cells that produce electricity. And electricity is the carrier of consciousness. When you move from pure consciousness states into part of Kai, part of K, and part of Come, where the beginning of electromagnetism occurs, there's a transition phase through what are called the etherics that is absolutely fascinating. I didn't have this information when I came in this time, so I'm learning with you. And I think Alice had some clue before. This was more of, he studied this, I haven't, in my incarnational training. And I'm excited about it, because I knew about it kind of like, yeah, you know, doctors go to school and they learn all that doctor stuff. Well, incarnationally, there were certain people who went to school to learn this stuff, right? I went to school to learn other things. You know, I was an ambassador for a long time. I learned negotiation skills. I went for the hard stuff. This is the knowledge. And the knowledge is fascinating. I'm really excited about being able to learn it because it's so, the information on the pillar of power and how that connects to the rest of your crystal body and how the etheric body systems work. There's something our systems, our crystal body, can do that it hasn't done for a long time, that it's beginning to do now. We're catching the wave with the planet because the planet's crystal body is beginning this phase. It is regenerating itself in the crystal body because its original one has been so damaged. And it is going into regeneration mode, which means the ability to regenerate is being brought to the planet for those who choose to anchor that ability. Some people won't be able to even know that choice exists. Nobody's here by accident. Nobody's in the predicament they're in by accident. In the universe, and we all knew this when we came in from the spark of God Source coming in, there was action and there was consequence to action. And that was a rule that everybody accepted when we came in. It was the law of balance that was set through the natural physics that sets externalization of creation in motion. There are a lot of people on this planet and in this universe that have made some very bad choices. And they still blame other people for the consequences in action that they received because of those choices. If somebody ends up here in the year 2004 with a fully Metatronic seed atom, and now the big hurrah is going down, where all the Metatronic seed atoms are going to be activated and called home, whose fault is this? This isn't something somebody did to them. Even the people that are sleepers now, they were not sleepers when this started. They made choices that progressively ended up with the consequence of them going to sleep. So there's things happening on the planet that bring out of the heart issues and right into just look at the technicals. What happens here? This is creation and how it works. It has to do with action and consequence. There's a beautiful system of balanced action and consequence that exists between what are known as the ethers, or the etherics, and the manifest state. And there is a mechanism in our bodies that's absolutely fascinating, and it regenerates something called the Rushate. Now, we've heard that word before. We've heard that after Hidaro and Hippolyte, there's something called the Rushate reset cycle. And we've heard of Ruche pillars. So we figure, well, probably same stuff, right? Similar, but they're not the same thing. All right, Ruche pillars and Ruche vortices do one part of the operations of the entire crystal body system. But there's something very, very special called the Rushate, and the planet is anchoring its original pattern of its Rushate. This is one of the things, and the most important thing, that we'll be talking about. There's still some surprises coming that I can feel data there, and it won't release yet. So it's waiting for the something in the grids to release for the data to come. But we are going to learn about the Rushate channel and about what it is and what it does. In a nutshell, it is the polarity balance control mechanism in the entire crystal body system. And the Rushate is the part of the anatomy that allows for perpetual spark regeneration. And what your Rushate is doing determines whether you will be in a manifest form that is capable of eternal life or not. That goes for a planet or a universe as well as for people. The Rushate is very fascinating because it is severely damaged on this planet. And this is where the core of the mutation is being held in the etheric body. And whatever's in the etheric body systems will be what the atoms do out here. The etheric body systems, which we'll talk about for a bit, so you understand more what is eros and ethos and those kind of things. Because they're words that, all right, we've said that, they are types of currents of, of the etheric systems. But where they come from, what does it have to do with anything? To understand these things, to understand the pillar of power, to understand the etherics, to understand spark pulse currents that set all of this in motion, we have to go back to some place that we've touched on, but never quite brought it in enough to be able to, where somebody could say, oh yeah, I know how to define that. And that's the word monad. What was that thing? Oh yeah, all right, we got one here. We got another 3-ball something or other somewhere up there. We know it's a D13. Where's D? The monad is connected to something called the matrodon that we just introduced in the Belize workshop, which was, I hadn't heard of it at all. I'm just like, oh my God, what is this matrodon thing? It's up in the Echo Base Shield. Call it the first creation imprint. We'll start there. It's like, oh, okay. Well, we have more information now on what the matrodon is and what let's say its children are, which are the matrodon, the nadrodon, the zendradon, the tephrodon, and the ethrodon. Cells. Cells. Yes, these are cells. It's kind of funny, because when we think cells, we usually think, oh, those little tiny things our bodies are made out of. Well, yes, but that's all a relative term. Certain cells we actually exist within. They're so big that we would be like little components within the cells, as opposed to the cells being components within us. When we're dealing with these cells, we are dealing with that type of cell. These are big light balls, photospheres that we actually walk around in. We each have a whole big set of them. When we get into this, there's tons of graphs, because without the graphs, I don't know how I could get any of this information across even to myself. These graphs help you keep a visual orientation of how parts fit together. And by the time you get to part C, you're going, what was part A again? But if you have an image, it connects B to C, so you can keep adding the information together. So there is a lot of visual work with this. The diagrams are still, we're still trying to integrate the ones from the Cathara 2-3 workshops. We're still finishing that manual, because I wanted to get it to a point where we not only knew how to play with lotus points, but what the heck are these things? Just give me a little more clue as to what they are, why they work, what they're connected to. And some of the information that you will learn through these workshops is going to be the cutoff point of K23, and that's going to be the beginning point of K4. So it's kind of like a transition space workshop where once the K-2-3 manual is going to comprise both the California workshop information and the Phoenix workshop information and bits of the Belize. It's almost like in the Belize workshop, we got part of the end of K-2-3, part of the beginning of K-4, and this is going to be the next step in that. But we haven't abandoned the K-2-3 manual, but what we've been trying to do is wait until certain things are clarified enough and the artwork could be done to finish them, where the manual makes some kind of sense, other than being a book of pictures, because that's what it kind of is. There's hardly any words in that manual. It's all diagrams and graphs. Now, we haven't had time to put text in the K-2-3 manual as far as pages between the diagrams. That would take about a year to explain what those diagrams explain. Fortunately, we have the workshops on video and that kind of thing, so there is an explanation to the pictures. Someday, my fantasy is that we can compile it onto a real book. It'll be about this thick by the time we're done with it. It'll be a good one. Now, with the K4 program, we are right now in the middle of watching it be born into manifestation. And part of that process is hilarious. I mean, our household just goes, forget schedules. For some reason, and it's probably because of the magnetotail on the planet, it all comes in at night. So I'm doing all-nighters, and Alice is doing all-nighters, and because we like to keep our fields in close proximity, it actually amplifies both of our fields, but it also creates protection frequency around us. If I have to be downstairs to do an all-nighter, he'll sleep on the couch, and vice versa. So it's like, it totally turns our household upside down when it's time for the next transmission to release. And we've gone through another 2-week period right before this, just like we did right before Belize. And it helps us get some graphs done. We at least get a head start. But there's so much data that's going to be given to us during this little walk down the Michael Mary line that we're going to be doing, that right now, what I could tell you we're going to learn about is probably just a small part of what we end up learning about. And some of it, there won't be graphs, but we can always scribble on Mylars and, point out. We have some of the graphs corrected from Belize. We had to leave at 7 o'clock this morning, and I believe it was 6:33. I finished the last set of photocopy stuff that needs to be put together to make graphs. All right, so tomorrow, during grid work period, Mac is going to be running the grid work, and we'll show you what needs to be done. There's a very special code. You've seen part of this code before, but you've not seen this part of this code before. There's more information that has been put into this code. You'll understand what this code is more once we get through the graphs that explain the Rishate and that explain its connection to literally the electromagnetic polarity balances within your body. Some of this gets very personal when we talk about Rishate, because there are certain anchoring points in the body that are very private, that these frequencies naturally anchor into. And if there's a distortion in these particular currents, they completely distort the currents running through those areas. This is the core of the male-female dilemma, what we're going into now. There is a problem in the shields. It's held in the planetary shields that has to do with the relationship between the eros, the ethos, and the matter density system in between. You could look at the ethos as the male, the divine male, in the manifest form, just like you have Mane being the male form in the primal source currents. That space between pure energy and manifestation in the etherics, you would have the ethos as the male force and the eros as the female force. And they come together and they create the matter force, the atomic force. And when there's a distortion in polarity, natural polarity alignments between the ethos fields and the eros fields, it creates a resultant distortion in the atomic fields and in any body it feels on them. We've been walking around in atoms that are hardly gasping, they're gasping for air. They're like little fish trying to take in their last breath because the ethos and eros balances are completely twisted. That has to do with the planetary shield. What's going to be interesting, and this came through probably about 4 o'clock this morning, because what was really funny is I knew bits about what we were going to be teaching because I had me preparing certain graphs. And I'll get pictures first, right? Draw this. Yeah. What is it? Right? Yeah. I don't even know sometimes what I'm drawing. I can see them and see what I'm supposed to draw, or I'll see a part, the upper left-hand corner, right? So get that done. Right. Then something else will come through, and I know it's another one. So I'll have like 6 different sheets of paper going. And I'll get a piece of this one, and a piece of that one, and a piece of this one, and that piece leads back to this one again. And this is how the information comes in. It's like circular reasoning as opposed to linear logic. But by the end of it, there is this picture of logic where you see how all these images that show interactions come together. I was just getting this information this morning on several layers of the Ruchete, and this particular code is the control code for the Ruchete. They gave us the name of this yesterday. What was it? It's the A.Channel Ruchete Camelati. By the end of this workshop, we should have an idea of what Camelati is, and also a few other claims of infamy. The information, I'm weary from translating, to be honest with you. It's kind of like, I feel like being mighty to death just for short periods of time, but after you get transmissions like this, and they come in visual, and you're getting pictures. And unfortunately, I had I telling me, go make 6 copies of this. Now reduce that to 20%. Now put that over there on 60%. And he's telling me what to do, right? Just to get it done fast. Because if I sat there trying to figure all this out, it would have taken me 6 weeks. Just to get these diagrams. But the diagrams are built on overlays that have different ratio percentages between them. You know, make a thyroid grid this big. Now make this circle this big to go with that. And the math is in the relationships. You know, the mathematical program is expressed in relationship to proportion between different parts of things. So in this early in the wee hours this morning, we were going through that with, a session with the photocopier and Ma. We're just telling you, make 3 of those, make 3 of each of those. Now take that one down to 50%. So I have all these pieces that I've got to assemble now. I have some of the paste ups done, but not many. I'm going to be doing that all day tomorrow. The typesetting this time, people are more important than things. And at this point, we're not going to get the typesetting done anyway. If we can get the pictures done, so we can show you what I'm talking about. Whether you have to look at the pictures with handwritten scribble up above them, or perfect little ones that you get to take home with you right now, it's more important that you understand what's there and that we show up. Because at this rate, it's like we're not going to be able to make our own workshop the time it takes to do these. So we're, what did I say, something by the cuff, flying by the cuff or something like that, with it as far as paperwork. The paperwork has to be secondary to the work that we're here to do and the knowledge we're here to learn. We're the first people on the planet that catch these waves of knowledge as they're coming in, and that is a gift. That's why we don't wait until after we have the book written to then let you know this knowledge is here. That would give me 6 months to a year that you wouldn't have that information or those activations. And it would also mean that the activations that are taking place on the planet, when they are, you wouldn't be present for, which means you wouldn't catch the extra spike in your own fields that's there when you're consciously working with the frequencies. Now, the grid activations, we're moving into some very heavy-duty grid activations, part of which would be natural, that we've talked about, the Ruchete reset cycle. There's a natural level of Ruchete reset cycle that has to do with anchoring of the 12 pillars, the 12 Ruchete pillars, and that creates something with this Ruchete that you'll know what that is tomorrow, Sunday, you'll know what the Ruchete is. But there's another process that involves firing the photocells, the radon cells. Now, this process is an override system that it's not somebody pushes a button and says it's time for override. It's a grid response to certain conditions in the planetary and galactic and universal grids and in the Echo base shield. And this response has been triggered because of the Buddhara wormhole link. And what it means is there's going to be something called starburst taking place. And I remember getting a chill when Ma'a first told me starburst. I'm thinking, what's that? Do I want to know? I'm thinking, no, not exactly. More like, turning it on. All right, okay, I have no clue what you're talking about, but I know you'll eventually show me. So starburst does not always occur. This planet has not had a starburst before. Nothing on this planet has had a starburst before. But starburst will ensure that the pillars anchor, will ensure that the part of the grids that are still Christic will remain that way. And it will prevent the Christic grids from being drawn into the accelerated Metatronic activations taking place on the planet. To understand what a starburst is requires understanding the photocells. Needing to understand the monad, what these flames are, that everything starts up, let's say, just take it from the echo level. It's all about flames, standing waves of conscious frequency that have certain properties and characteristics, and they interact in certain ways of physics, following the natural laws of interdimensional physics, on the Christic ratios. It's through those flames that everything is created down here. They're the downstep flames. If you looked at Source as the eternal non-manifest flame that chooses to manifest itself continually as flames that spawn flames, that spawn flames, that spawn flames, all the way down, we're all linked. The flame fields are the consciousness fields. The consciousness exists in any form of manifest form, even energy form, as energy of some sort. There is a space before that. There's a space called Source, God Source, whatever you want to put that label on. And that's even before Partikai, Partike, and Particum. But that's a place that I don't think you can even fathom. You might be able to touch it feeling-wise from here. And the more of your flame you have turned on, the more you can feel that presence with you. But that's a state that you can't describe while you're in this state, because there's not words to explain that state. But while we're in the states of anything that resembles matter, and energy is a form of matter, it's just a thinner form of matter and a hotter form of matter. Because when you cool energy off, you get matter. When you heat atoms up, you get energy. What we're going to be doing is turning on an electrical generator in our bodies. We're going to be turning on our pillar of power, and we're going to be reactivating our flames. You're going to understand a bit more about monad by the end of this. We're going to understand what starburst is, or at least the beginning of what it is, because we're going to go through a series of graphs. These are the ones that they were everything 6 at once and didn't know what any of them were, and they said, you put that picture there, reduce that to 20% down. These diagrams, I don't know the sequence of them yet, but I see the knowledge held in the one that can describe what those pictures mean, at least, which is the beginning. These explain about the photocells, about the eros and ethos, and the etheric bodies, and how these work to manufacture the atomic states. And through understanding something called phasing. Now, we've heard the word phasing before, as far as Partikai, Partike, and Particum. You think of the three little balls, the one that the other two came out of, and the polarized ones that'll be make sparks every time they come close together. Well, that's it. And we think of maybe little Partikai as little things tangling out atoms, and that's fine too. What if we think about big light cells phasing all around us as well as within us? This is kind of where this goes. And there's a fascinating process of phasing that when I saw the diagrams come through, it just tickled me. I don't know why. I was just like, oh, it's me! Like finding an old friend. Like some part of me knew this. And it was like so long ago that it was almost wiped out of my cellular memory. And there's such a giggle and a thrill of certain diagrams that show this phasing process. And the fact that the whole process is a very sophisticated process where there's so many levels of anatomy to the crystal body that I was giving up. I mean, I have things that are shaped like spheres, things that are shaped like crystals, things that are shaped like chunk plates, and I'm trying to figure out how they all interact together. But it comes down to one very simple thing: breathing. We can control all of this by breathing and by thought form. What we do with our minds and our breath together. We can restart our pillar of power, and we can heal in our bodies the gravitron mutation. Now that's an interesting piece of work. To be able to understand what the gravitron is, you first need to be able to understand the relationship of ethos, eros, and the particum, universe, nuclear. And you also need to be able to understand phasing, the phasing of the etherics and the atomics that create what we walk around in. Once we get to that point, then we can understand what the gravitron is, at least to the degree that we could see I could see how that would mess things up. And we also need to understand the Rishate, because the graviton is a set of implant devices in the planetary grids that hold a very unnatural form into the Rishate and make the Rishate do something it's not supposed to do. And what's hilarious is it's exactly what somebody else is teaching you supposed to do, which is really funny, and I didn't know it until we had our stuff down. And then a certain set of diagrams came through, I said, wait a minute, that one looks familiar. Okay. oh no, am I being compromised? I get ruby information here because I've seen that diagram before. And there's a spiral one. Simple spiral, not a spiral this way, but a spiral this way, coming down. And I kind of chuckled at me and said, oh, don't worry, but we're going to show you what that is. We're going to learn about the spiral of light. I'll give you that much of a clue as far as what the Rishite is. It'll help us understand better what our round tables are when we do them. There's a very specific type of round table that's the living activation of this. That, yeah, again, I think they have a copy there, right? Oh, I won't, okay. When we begin to understand the Rishite, we'll start to understand more of what this monadic code does and why it's important. We're also going to start to understand what the chakras are and where they come in. We know we've got them, we've identified them as part of the anatomy. What's interesting about the K2, 3, and then moving into K4 programs is they're not only showing you, hey, you've got this. They're saying, here's how this came to be. And then this did this, and here's how that came to be. They're progressively showing us how these parts of crystal body came into being, what formed the radio bodies, what formed the Merkaba fields. So we're getting the information now on where the chakras came from, and the axiom lines and the meridian lines. We started that in K2, 3. But there's a whole other set of things between atoms and meridian lines and axiom lines. You have your radius lines and your natus lines, and you have the etheric body capsules, and you have the pillar of power. So we're going to be learning about all of that pre-externalization, right before externalization phase. We have externalization and pre-externalization. That's where the etherics fit in. When we learn about that, this will make more sense to you. You'll understand when you use this code, what you're doing with your spiral of light. It's moving up and down. It's supposed to be moving up and down. Your central vertical column. Right now, I think it's just moving downward. I have to say it's either one direction or the other. But its polarities are so twisted right now, it's amazing we don't have 4 genders sticking out of us. That'd be a sight. There's another part of what we're going to be learning, and I'd like to tell you which day we're going to learn what, but I'm not sure of the sequence yet. They're still going to show me because we're going to be up tonight, and then we're going to be working all day tomorrow while Matt is working with you on the sightseeing. We're going to be working with the chakras directly, but it's important to understand it's like one thing to understand that you have a chakra. It's another thing to hold the knowledge base, or you know what that's connected to, so when you do something to it, you know what you're affecting, not just this little cone of energy that does something or other ones that hits the inside of my body. We're going to understand where the chakras come from. And it's really fascinating when you start to see the pieces of this crystal body system come into being and see where they fit together. And you start to see where Rushe vortices plug into chakra vortices and where the chakras came from in the first place, which has everything to do with the spiral of light. You start to really get the feel for how your parts are working. And you start to realize that you have more power and more consciousness and more connection to God Source at your disposal than you ever might have imagined. Now, all of these things connect to the pillar of power. And the pillar of power is inside you and around you as well. We're going to be learning, probably, I would think, up through Cathara 6 is going to deal with pillar of power stuff in different ways, different aspects of it. The part we're going to deal with in this workshop is the externalization phase, where you understand, first of all, you have this thing called the pillar of power. Second of all, why it's not working, and why we've been disempowered here, and how our polarity has been twisted up completely because of a distortion in the pillar of power. We're going to learn how to use the chakras and to use intention and the right codes to reset the pillar of power, which is not easy to do because the etheric body systems are highly protected systems. They're what are called the morphogenetic fields. Form templates. Now, in between templates and matter, there is a form-holding field that is invisible from the matter level. It's the morphogenetic field. This is where eros and ethos and a few other things with thoses on the end come in, like magnos and electros and nanos And there's a whole string of them. And right now, I have a list of, I know there are lotos, photos, there's toses all over the place. I'm trying to get the information down on which one is where, what charge is it, what spin is it, what does it do, why do I need to know this, right? Why do we need to know this? So we'll get some of the information on the etheric currents, but they're highly protected, and they're protected by literally the substance they're made out of. You need to have more than access to this 15-dimensional system to be able to change, make a change to a morphogenetic field here. And that's what we're being given access to with the Pillar of Power and being able to use it. There's something called the Shah force. We've heard a little bit in Belize about the Ka and the Tha and the Ra, and now there's the Shah. That's the quiet one, the silent one that you don't hear or see. Well, you can't actually if you turn the vision in the right angle, angular rotation of particle spin. But the Shah force comes from the parallel echo. That's where the morph field imprint is held for here. And to be able to touch those comforts in ourselves or our planet or anything, it not only needs the approval of the Iani and the Iane Council on this side, it also needs the approval of the High Councils on the Iane side. Because there was a joint effort, the creation of this entire matrix that both are a part of, and they were the senior partners in the deal. They created the Iani. So we're being given, there's such a privilege in this. This is what really drives Alice and I, that we really feel how the gratitude of being entrusted with this information. Because there have been eons that have gone by when we pined for the knowledge. We knew it was there, but we knew we couldn't touch it from where we were. There were times when the Adonai would have liked to have brought the knowledge to us, and they would have, if it wouldn't have created a disaster here. But we're in a position now, there's going to be a disaster here if they don't give us the knowledge. So they're bringing us the information on the Pillar of Power and the Rishabh, and there's some other things after that have to do with starburst that are rather fascinating. I kept asking them after they used the word starburst, give me a clue. I just like get a clue of what we're moving toward, like by 2012. And I'm not the only one, I know it. We're all working real hard to understand this stuff, and we're trying to heal the economy and heal ourselves and that. What's this going to look like? I'm so sick of me saying that. I still don't quite know the answer to that. But I get a little bit of information here and there. They drop little comments. They're like seeds that bring in more knowledge from the plates and things like that. And I asked what starburst was. They gave me a real quick series of, I had several diagrams already partially done. They said, make 3 copies of that one. So I said, okay. So I made 3 copies, and then they started to scribble stuff with me real fast. Put this here, put it in. He goes, this, they gave it to me so fast, I couldn't even write down what starburst was, but I know it's encoded now, so it will unravel itself so I can get it written down. It has to do with the interactions of the eros and the ethos and the blueprints, the morphogenetic field. What it culminates into is, under certain circumstances, the photocells, of which our etheric bodies are made, can phase in a way that they flip into the parallel echo. By turning into a silica, I believe it's silica, I'm not sure because I haven't given you the technicals yet, crystal. By literally solidifying the crystal around the form, and the Merkabas that activate and all that kind of stuff, but literally flipping into the parallel. So, it's kind of like getting out of the way of a moving train kind of thing when necessary. That's not been done on this planet before, but this is where the part of the planet is moving. And I keep wondering, what I've been really asking since the Buddhara issue, since the Buddhara wormhole issue off the coast of California stuff came up, what are we on Plan F at this point? I mean, we had Plan A and Plan B and then Plan C. What's the plan now? Still the same plan, Christos realignment mission. It just keeps taking, okay, that roadblock came, so we have to go this way, turn right instead of left, then come back around. Still on the same plan. But part of the starburst aspect of the Christos realignment mission wasn't going to be needed. We were hoping it wasn't going to be needed It is the last grid response that the planet will have in relation to what's been unleashed here by the Wisa groups and working with the Buddharas. So we're being prepared for starburst. What's that going to look like? I haven't a clue. I haven't looked for a starburst. All I know is really cool. You descend and then ascend up the other side. You ride the ethos. It's like riding a wave of light. So whether this means, what I find frustrating is, when you understand the dynamics of what's taking place in the energy forms, it's massive. And then you watch and like, nothing big happened on the outside. I'm wondering if it's going to be one of those, like Hibaro and Hithalon. There were big, major stuff happened then. But we didn't see a lot on the outside. They had your vision on, you saw a lot. That was setting a pattern for what we're moving forward. But I'm still wondering, okay, what are we going to see now? Right now we're seeing all sorts of hurricanes diving for those wormholes off the coast of Florida. I mean, at this point, it's a good time to take a vacation from Florida for a while. So bless the people there. We used to live there. And the place we used to live got hit with the first one, Charlie. And I think it ran number 5 or something. And, these are big storms. And it's like, oh, is it just coincidence that they just so happened to activate the matrix by connecting the Buddhara wormholes that are on the west coast through the ones that run through the Yucatan in Mexico, through the Gulf of Mexico, into the wormholes that are off the coast of Florida, right? And all of a sudden, there's all these hurricanes whipping up into the Gulf and over the coast of, over to Florida. Is that an accident? No. You could call it a coincidence if you're a 3D scientist type person, I suppose. But it isn't an accident. We're starting to see results. It's kind of funny, too, today. I mean, results as far as results on the outside of stuff that you know is taking place on the inside and the effect on the outside. There's been some strange things that go with our trips. They've been very, very subtle. No major anything has happened. But I know when we were in Crete, there was an earthquake. It was Crete, right? We were in 1 degree balance, yeah. A small one, but it was there. When we were in Machu Picchu, there was a landslide and knocked the rocks down off and blocked the trail that the buses were supposed to go in. Now, when we tried to do the Belize workshop and everybody had to meet in Florida, oh, brother, that was a nightmare of hurricanes and people stuck at airports. There's just these little subtle things. And I wonder if these are just beginning to show us that at some point they're going to reach, they're going to reach a peak where it's not going to be so subtle. But we're being prepared for the path of starburst, to be with the part of the planet that's going to starburst, which means it's going to shift its time codes into the time codes, or the time rhythm, time waves, of the parallel Eka, which means our Eka is doing that too. Our Eka is going to merge with its twin. And there's a part of our grids that will be able to do that. And the part that can't will go by way of Metacount. And I find it all fascinating. Part of it's exciting because there's a lot of us that came through as Iani, but they didn't start as Iane. We crossed over at the Iani level. We were from that matrix in the first place. So there's a real, very, very ancient, we're talking like way before any of the history we've talked about here, time when that was home. And there's a feel to the Adonai that I know where I came from. I mean, as soon as they started coming through, and I could hear the music coming through the electricals. Anybody get that yet, by the way? You've been hearing it? Yeah. It's the weirdest thing. At first you think your mind just played tricks on you, because you hear the refrigerator singing, on the electricals. Some fan will be singing. Or like the TV, it's not the TV you're hearing, it's the electricity singing through the wires. This kind of stuff. Now, it's not always there, but you'll start to hear when the choir is. And this is where we tap it in to the Adonai side. There's a grace that these beings carry. Maybe it's because when you look at the two of the Iani and the Eka and the Adonai and the parallel Eka, the Iani are the masculine ones, and the Adonai are the girls. They're the feminine. They're not all girls, but they are the feminine flame to the masculine flame that holds the Eka matrix. There's a softness and an emotionality to the feel of them, where there's more of a logic and directness to the Iani, and both are in very nice balance together. But the electrical singers, the ones that come through on the electrics, they're not the Iani. The Iani are the dancers. They can sing too, but their primary is, if you start to see people doing like round tables and dancing and levitating while they're doing round tables floating on shields, that's the Iani. Sometimes you can, you're like dreaming sometimes, or sometimes you close your eyes and all of a sudden they're just there, and you're seeing these visions as if it opened up on a different field someplace else, and you see thousands of people, often dressed in white, spinning and levitating shields and spinning on the levitating shields and doing their chants and things. That would be the Iani side. But the Adonai, they sing. And the music that they run through the electricals, it activates our shields in really beautiful ways. It creates waves of feeling that you can sense when it starts to happen. So this will become, as we tune in more to understanding parts of ourselves that are connected most closely to them, which is our monad and our core flame, the stuff that the templates were created through. The templates came after the core flame of the Eka. The Eka flame was set first. And anything in the Veka systems down here came out of that core Eka flame. And the core Eka flame came from the Adonai matrix. That's the Matrodon cell, the information we introduced in Belize. So I'm going to find a sequence that will take us from where the basic stuff we've learned about K2-3, about a crystal body and axiom lines and stuff, and then reintroduce, hopefully in a little more linear connected fashion, the information on the radon cells, like the Matrodon, and then bring it into the new information that really helps to link all of those parts together. And there's another block of something. It's going to be a surprise, and I'm not sure what it is yet, but I feel it there. It's like once we get through that, once I see the sequence, there's going to be an aha. Oh, cool. That's what that's leading to. I don't know what that is yet. So I'll get the surprise together probably during the last workshop, which will be toward the end of the trip after most of the good work is done. What we need to do for tomorrow's grid work isn't a whole lot. It's simple. I didn't get anything other than optical planning on this, did we? Okay, very good. Yeah. Okay, yeah, that would be really helpful. Thank you for doing that, yes. We've got the map master here. I'm so thrilled. I really am. Yeah, so we each have specializations. Like all the Yanni and Adonai people have different things that they're good at. You can't take everything in school all at once and then anchor it all in one little tiny body down here. I have things that I'm good at, and then there's things that you are good at. You've been plotting everything. I mean, anybody can draw it once it's plotted. Once you dissect the grids, the grid work is in codes or has a specialty, and he does a lovely job with them. So he's going to go over the Michael Maryland a little bit with you. We do have the maps available, don't we, this time, for the first time? Okay. Okay, great. Yeah, I won't. I'm not even going to tell you what he's going to tell you. He'll tell you what he's going to tell you. It's really nice at this point because when we first started to work together, most of the information, I was translating most of it. Now it comes down to each bit apart, and they're completely different until they dovetail and come together, which is really, really nice. We'll be working in rooms right next to each other, and he'll be working grids and maps and getting that stuff, and I'll be working technicals on little pieces of things that fit together to form other things and form other things. So we're working really well as a team now. Mac holds the fort in her own way too. She's very, very, let's say, lucid of body when she floats around in the astral. She's very conscious of being able to use her skills that way, and I know that. And I thought, I hope you don't mind, Mac, if I let people know that you're good at that. Whatever you are. Because I think you often get underappreciated because they see us doing paperwork, right? Most people probably don't see exactly what you are doing, and you're doing quite a lot, actually. Yeah, that's true. Most of it is dealing with the E group. God bless it. Oh, yeah, Janie too. We've got such a team of people that we're very, very grateful for. We've got you guys that keep coming to the workshops and learning more, and we're grateful that you're here. And we have a core team of people. We don't get to have much of a social life. There's no time. We're lucky if we can have a social life with each other and sit down and have dinner like a normal family. But there's a few people like Janie at the office. I mean, she's there just about every day, and she's dealing with the phones. There's one job I don't want, is dealing with the phones or the emails. Her and Al's deal with the emails and the phones on this side. And believe me, the phones are busy. People call and people ask some strange questions. And can you imagine trying to explain, now that you know what you know? Yeah, because this isn't like a new, hello, my name is Asha class. You guys know the sophistication of this material. Can you imagine getting cold calls where you go, oh yeah, a friend of mine said that you guys do some kind of healing work or something. Well, tell me about it. Well, what should I order? Should I, and the first thing you do is you try to scan down the wire and scan their fields. Are they Archangel Michael? Are they Guru Groupies? Just to find the affiliation, because you have to put in like a language translator if you're going to, depending on which group you're going to speak to. It is so exhausting to do those jobs, and they're just as important. The aspect of, when we first started, I'd be dead by now. They would have ground me into the ground by now if it hadn't been for Az coming into my life. And I want people to understand what this has been like. I was glued to a chair 17 hours a day before. I'd probably have no legs at this point. I would have died of atrophy. But I was literally working 17 hours a day in translation and then trying to deliver it in workshops. There's not enough of me to do that and turn it into a business where people can have access to buy the information. There's not enough of me to do all the other jobs of serving people that do want to get interested. So we've been very blessed with other, both Adame and Yanni Indigos, coming in and doing their parts. And it's been very, very helpful. I wanted to acknowledge those people. There's a whole list. It's not just Mac and Janie and Naz. There's a whole list of people who assist in their own ways. You know, we have Tammy, we've got just so many people. I can't remember anymore. Yeah, because our team, everybody. Yeah, that is what they, I'd be terrified if you put me on newcomers at this point. I started on newcomers. I introduced this, right? I'm the one that started with, like little unheard of person came from nowhere and, introduced this information in New York City. And when I look back at the tension level in those workshops and the field hits that I was getting constantly and getting whacked in the astral and all sorts of like nasty avatars tracking me and that kind of thing, I was more naive then. It was really good that I was. Because if I'd realized what I was walking into, I would have run in the opposite direction. And dealing with people who are just coming in, they will have all sorts of field connections to things they don't want to know they're connected to very often, right? I mean, it's scary to find out, like, oh, I've been channeling for 20 years. Oh, yes, I can give you the list of who they are. Oh, did you know they work for Archangel Michael and that's a fallen electronic system? What? They don't want to know this. There's a whole level of dealing with new people coming into the work new. That any of you that are engaged in doing that, we thank you very much. That's the step down team, where we're the anchoring rods, and the people who work in that capacity are stepping the frequency down so it's available to other people on this planet. So I'd just like to thank everybody that does that in their own little ways, whether you work directly with us or the organization that we have, or whether you do it independently. It is a job, and give yourself credit for it. Stepping this information down isn't easy on any level. Yesterday, was it yesterday that I kind of looked like a corpse after a while? When it starts to come through and I'm on transmission for like 3 or 4 days in a row with hardly any sleep, I was 114 pounds in one day, and then a day half later I was 110. I mean, it just melts. The electricals come through with the current, and it just goes, and it's kind of nice. I mean, before it was going in the opposite direction. You're like, whoa. I mean, expanding and contracting in my crystal body, literally. Right now it's on the inhale. Hope it stays that way for a while. But anyway, the information is not getting smaller. It's not getting any easier, but it's not getting harder either. It's getting just more filled out. When we get to the point, once we have certain levels, see, what is very difficult to translate here is anything that involves spins, because the currents on the planet are reversed primarily. So if the plates say left, it'll come through as right on the filters of the planet. And you have to have a filtering system in the body They can tell the difference between the original signal and the one that picked up the minute signature from the template and the planet that twisted it. So I struggle with them sometimes, and I won't release them until I know. Until I know it's right. I won't just say, Mama says that's right, and I just leave it okay. I have to know, and it has to do with, I can justify it with how other stuff works around it, and with other things that were taught before, and things that I know. So all of this stuff has to do with what's spinning in what direction. And is it flowing up or down, or front to back, or back to front? Is it positive or negative? Is it positive on a clockwise spin, or is it positive on a counterclockwise spin? It gets nuts. So there's a lot of data. I'm trying to make it as simple for you as well, because what do we really need to know right now is what's most important. Do we need to have, let's say if there's 144 different currents and particle-type units that are forming through the pillar of power, do we have to know them all by name right now? Do we have to know which came first, which spawns which interacts with what, in what way? Do we need all of it now? Because great, that was going to last until probably 2012 if we need all of those things translated. Or do we need to know the most important ones that we're going to be working with and how they work? And that'll set a pattern for when it's time to get all the detail in. It'll just plug right in easy. They're downstepping. We've got 3 downstep teams now. It started with, I was doing really well with Aote, who was one of the ones from the Adonai side. And I can communicate with Aote with no problem. They're at a much higher frequency than the Iani are. And Ma introduced me to them. He kind of served as a bridge, a translator for a while there. And then I was able to translate the signal myself so I could, open communications with Aote. When it came to bringing this stuff through, Aote had to send it down to, and he's an Adonai, he had to send it down to an Adonai. The Adonai group had to send it over to the Adandrea. The Adandrea had to send it down to the Iani, and Ma'a had to send it down here through a series of step-down teams. I mean, this data is, the data itself is frequency. When we take data in, this is why people say, oh, just put the techniques on the website. At this point, we can't. Because those techniques aren't going to do anything without the other part, which is the knowledge that goes with them. Every bit of knowledge you pick up, whether you read a statement on a page, you hear it on a television, it is a broadcast of frequency that directly affects your shields in one way or another. Right now, the information, and a lot of it's visual, on seeing how parts fit together, and well, it always has been very visual, but it's getting even more visual. This data is required. You can run a flame technique, and the flame technique won't do anything unless you have the component that came from the words or the visual stuff, because it activated certain sequences of step-downs in your fields that allowed the flame to anchor. So at this point, it's all important. That's why we can't just put the techniques out. We'd be misleading people if we just put, you can do up to some of the early Lettore activations without having a whole bunch of knowledge. Like if somebody came in and tried them, because of the host fields that are running on the planet right now, a person could stumble into actually getting a flame activation out of just playing with the technique without even knowledge. But that stops at the Lettore level. The rest of it is, the only people that are going to have this information are the people who have this information. The masters, you need to understand it to be able to use it. Or it won't work in your systems, because the understanding is the bridge of frequency that allows your system here to run the frequencies of the higher flames. So this is why we struggle to bring the information to you. And we do struggle with it. It's not a cakewalk for us at all. We're learning to be civilized. When I first met Az, he was a lifesaver. I probably have burned my body out by now, because I was literally, I'm not exaggerating, I was working 17 hours a day on the computer. My eyesight in a year went right down the tubes. I mean, everything was fuzzy. And I still wear glasses from it. I can see now better than I could when I was working on the computer. But I had no life. Poor Lex didn't have much of a life either. I mean, she was fed and bathed and got off to school and that kind of stuff. But we never went anywhere. We never did anything. There were workshops, and there was mom glued to her seat in front of the computer. You were still mom, I know. But at least we have a family-ish now. Well, it's not in crazy mode. We actually sit down and finish together. But we have hope. Yes. Right. But when Az came into my life, I mean, you can't expect to have somebody in your life if you just dust them off once in a while. It sounds great. Okay.
Apples.
Okay.
Apples.
People and plants too. Plants are a great way to teach.
Keep plants.
because I knew better. And that's where I realized we weren't going to get any more animals either. I loved cats and dogs and things like that, but they needed attention too, and they weren't getting it. It's more than just feeding them. It's more than putting the food down and making sure they're clean and have clothes. And that goes for anything from, plants don't need clothes, but plants to animals, to your children, to your family members, And I'm learning a balance where I can bring in the frequency, and it actually makes me stronger, so I can bring in more frequency and more data. But it wasn't always like that. So anyway, Az would like to talk to you about stuff that's more important than the chat that I'm having with you right now. So I'm going to hand this over. Well, it is. This is more important. I'm just chatting. I'm being sociable for once. Usually it's just technical. You know what? I would like to say one more thing that I'd like people to understand. When this all started, I was pretty much a shy person on the outside, just shy and the quiet, introverted type person. I was not a socialite. In fact, I get kind of awkward in normal social situations. I don't really know how to make small talk. I'm not very good at that. But I was very open-hearted and a very loving person, and genuinely care about people very, very much. I care about what they're feeling and what they're thinking, and I like people. And progressively, as the demands of the work got more and more and more, there's been less and less and less of me that can reach out, because it got to the point where there'd be 25 people waiting to talk to me after the workshop, and it would be 4 o'clock in the morning before I get home, and that kind of thing, where it just got crazy. And I would love to be able to know each one of you personally. I do care about you. Each one of you are a unique and wonderful being, and I genuinely feel that. I think at this point, because there's so much demand on me, and other people get this impression, I think, from me too, not just people at workshops, that I'm aloof or don't care. I want you to know that I do care very much inside. There's just so little of me left. I'm on burnout so often with this stuff, and while I'm on burnout, I'm trying to bring in the next level of data, so I have it ready for you, particularly in workshops, because you come here and you pay good money to get here, so you can come and get the information. The least I could do is respect you enough to give you the information. But it doesn't leave a lot of me left to play, or to just be sociable and go give warm, fuzzy huggies to everybody, which I would love to be able to do. So I just want you to know that the sentiment is there. And if you could feel it more like a big field drift, sometimes I will do that. I'll send out a big, warm, fuzzy huggy through the field, just like a big ball around y'all, and hope you feel it, because it's there. I don't want you to think I'm just this robot person up here that doesn't feel emotion and is just kind of aloof and that kind of thing. But there isn't a lot of time to talk with you, and that's why I'm taking a little time just now, just to chat with you as people, and to share a little bit of our experiences about what we're going. I mean, we're going into technical mode once we get into workshop. There's so much data usually in workshop, there's not even time for a question and answer period, and so just I hope you can understand what it's like for us on that, so you can realize that your presence here is much more valued than might be being acknowledged on the outside. We're very grateful for you coming, and we hope you have a good time with this workshop. I'm excited about the stuff we're going to be teaching. Anyway, here you go.
That's well said. Nobody cried though. But to support what she's saying to you, I'll put it to you this way. The love we have for you, we spend working for you and not loving each other, if you understand what I'm trying to say. Right. We forego the love that we feel for each other because we love you so much that we just don't have any time left to, do things.
Our house is funny. You hear the sound. You hear the sound that goes, you.
Now.
Hi. As we yell across the house to
each other
because we miss each other, because we never get to see each other because we work on it.
Now, I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to make you laugh very much. A, because there's not much time, and B, because there isn't much time. But there is a special announcement. Lex, will you stand up a moment, please? Now, this person, no, not yet, at the end, when we finish the whole thing, right? Because then people will understand. This person just acquired a new title, a new point of recognition. She's from now on called the Arga Girl, which is the Arc Gate Apple Girl, right? She's all agag. Now, this is not a joke. It is in a way, but it isn't really. Now, it became apparent to us that the significance of this trip, which I'll explain to you rather more seriously in a minute, but very quickly, would be aided and abetted by a kind of biological technique, a new biological technique. This is very advanced. And it consists in the need for you to take direct frequency from Arc Gate 12, I'm not joking, in the form of an apple. So this is a whole new Adam and Eve story. Now, you know what happened. You know what the great book says about this business of one offering an apple to another. Now, except it's different, isn't it? Because who offered the apple to who? She offered it to him, right? Well, we turn the tables entirely, and I'm offering you an apple, girls, okay? Let's see how that gets recorded in history. What? We're getting to that. She's a step ahead on me. So, yeah. But the tree that has yielded the apples grows at the head of the fountain of the waters of Arc Gate 12. Seriously. And Lexay spent hours very carefully selecting. Now, bear in mind, these are pure, they're absolutely organic, right? They just grow. They don't have any pesticides. They don't have any rubbish associated with them whatsoever. And they don't look like they're commercially bought, right? They don't grin at you when you're prepared to eat them or anything. They don't move. Lex has been worrying for a week that there could be bugs in or on them or around them, but they've been kept in the refrigerator since she picked them. But she spent hours, bless her, halfway up a tree trying to get the best ones down. And they sit in a white bag between Mac and Lex at the back. And any of you that are inclined to take what I'm saying seriously, and you might because they are Arc Gate 12 apples, there is one per person with a few left over. So don't anybody think if you have two, you're going to go off like a rocket on this trip. Because if you do have two, you may actually go off like a rocket. We might not see you again. All of these things are entirely, as usual, a matter of your personal choice and preference and distinctly of your own responsibility, particularly as far as your innards are concerned.
They don't have to eat it either.
Now,
It's actually just linked with the morph field up there.
and coming back to your point, you could sort of stuff it in your clothing. Now, speaking of the Yucatan, as we were just only a month ago, this is back-to-back stuff, really heavy. What I'm going to do in a very simple way is to try and join those two in terms of 3D planetary surface lake involvements. Why are you here and what are you going to do? Now, all right, yeah. Subject to much more detailed confirmation, our task is what I refer to the Pantechnicon effect, which is developing our own shields individually and collectively as an indigo shield development, but also to create this Pantechnicon in which dependent life forms, right, can actually enjoy the privilege of hosting through our fields, all right? Now, that's as far as any stimulus that Ash and I have shared over the last couple of years, right? We kind of got to this Pantechnicon idea that I call it, where we become one huge wagon and we can transport life forms out when the time comes. But, well, some do, like they hang in the fields until it's time to go. Some do. Yeah. Right? So, yes and no. But what is beginning to happen in the way I think it did before when we were having the occasional after-supper chat is the idea that we're going to directly facilitate the creation of the crystal body of the new Earth. You see, it's a no-brainer once you get that, because why is Cathara 4 what it is? What is it showing us? You'll find out more about that this weekend. But just to paraphrase a whole bunch of it, it's actually helping us to restore our own. Which, if we're restoring our own, what does that mean for the planet, right? So you go, oh, right, okay, fine, got it now. Well, it's just so easy. But yeah, right. There are things called miasms. Now, how does the planet experience a miasm? Well, it can experience a miasm when people do strip mining, and it can experience a miasm in a lot of ways, but the most profound way in which it will is when its arterial network is interfered with energetically with some major inorganic creation, some imposition, right, in its own body. Just as if an imposition was someone stuck a knife in your own body. You'd have the ultimate miasm and probably pass, if you're lucky. But you might have to suffer it stuck in your ribs for a while, and that wouldn't be very nice. Well, you see that the planet has the same relationship on its own scale. Now, in Yucatan, a little bit of old stuff, new stuff, had to do with a grid network, which we now understand to be UIR Chanterelle, which the Anu races abhor, absolutely loathe it as much as, let's say, the Guardian races find it a serious irritant. And it's kind of, I don't know what its proper name is, I never tried to find out, but it's referred to as the Great Uncoiling Serpent, the mother of all points of inorganic presence on the planet's surface within the grid network, all right? Which, spider grid, but it's called the Great Uncoiling, right? In the way that they intended it to be, which runs in terms of the I can't relate to the spider analogy presently, so I'll just stay with the serpent part. The head in the Yucatan, which was very much a matter of our interest during the last cruise. I mean, it was the object of it, the Budhara one, right? Yeah. The golden, aren't they golden ones? Dull gold? Dull gold beetles. Okay, there were silver beetles in Germany, though. All right, okay. So, in the Yucatan, well, I do this to you sometimes, don't I? So, in the Yucatan, we're having a crack at, let's say, laying the bait for the snake, if you think of it that way. Now, this grid pattern flows from the Yucatan northeast, more or less northeasterly, goes up through the wormholes that lie off the Carolinas, goes on up through off the coast of New York, moves on up through Hudson Bay, goes beyond there through a sunken part, allegedly part of Atlantis, called Ruta, which is the main center of the Anu Great White Brotherhood Ruby Order Pre-Sever mob, and that is a control center of theirs where they have been fighting with this serpent for a long, long time. It rolls on through Greenland, comes back down, so it rises then up again on a diagonal up through the Atlantic. And where is its tail? This is its tail, and that's why we're here. Okay? Now, there are further interesting things. I mean, if I had time to go into the new map and start to look at cross-reference so it would stimulate questions or thought on my part, which I hadn't done, I'm sorry, I would have got further than this. But I got far enough quickly because they kept asking me to look at the new maps. Jane will have the new A3 Amenti sextant grid maps, the most comprehensive map, all right, of our own key control sites and the intruder race sites, all in color, A3, dudum, it's all there. But all I wanted to point out to you in terms of significance is this particular line, which runs from the most extreme northeasterly point of England, all right, which is a little place called Hopton, and you'll be visiting St. Margaret's Church tomorrow, okay? The significance of this is it actually makes a horizontal directly through Arc Gate 1 and all the former work we've done in Ireland, in Era, that's at Adair, Castle Matrix. But this line is a main control line that joins up with the control line of the UIR Budhara swastika matrix that you will see marked on the new maps. It does. It hits the top. It's the reversed upside-down L shape of the swastika. All right. When you look at the map, you see it goes like this on the map. All right, like that. Yeah. And this is the control line, and that ties this into the Michael Murray matrix in the USA and Canada, as does this 22.5-degree line that takes you back to the Grual at Stargate 2. All right. Now, so during the course of the trip, I can't remember what else I've written on my notes, but I'll just busk it anyway. It's interesting now how the final combination is we're doing 6 sites rather than the original 7. We're doing 2 at the northeast control end, 2 that's almost dead geographical center, and there's something about this we've got to look at, the QSite 9 link. Here. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, the Greenwich Meridian. Yeah. Right. Well, you can talk about that this weekend. All right. So Ash will cover that about the Greenwich Meridian during the weekend, maybe. It's all very new stuff, yeah. These 2 here, which is where we go and work Avebury and Milk Hill, all right, and Glastonbury. Now, the reason for our spending time, particularly here, is because of the kind of artificial vortices that would clog up the center part of it as a result of all of the well-intended light workers of the UK and various parts of Europe coming across. And then ultimately we'll come down to St. Michael's Mount and Carnla Boel here at the southwesternmost tip. Okay, there's a major vortex right on the tip as well. And that's known by some of the Anu in crowd. It's not the general passage for light workers in the UK, but it's a major point, as is Michael's Mount sort of backs it up, and that's a very popular site where people go and do inspired work, all right? So by the time we get back to Stonehenge, which is running more or less on the 90-degree line that comes to Gate 12, all right, we'll actually be popping all of the seeding that we've done up and down this line, which will then open this entire network to the flows that will emanate from Gate 12 through Gate 11 and then just radiate through the system, all right? Now, when we do that, what we're doing is we're clearing a major miasm for the planet, and we're clearing the path for an element, a major element of the foundation work of the planetary crystal body, which I began talking about initially. Okay? I mean, this is, I stress again, this is not something that's been confirmed through Ash or through the occasional transmissions that I get. But it appears to me to be so logical, I feel quite sure, that it does relate to the new Earth and the creation, or the assistance in creating the crystal body.
You're right on with that.
Yeah, okay. All right.
It is confirmed, even though we don't have like 40 pages.
Yeah. All right, well, Matt apparently is giving Ash a dig and saying, yes, that's absolutely right. So when you go about your business tomorrow, and I'm sorry that we won't be with you, but we will be in every other respect, that all you need to do is to do a simple optical pineal induction of a new code this evening before you go to bed. All right? Yes, the one that Jane has been giving you. Repeat the name 3 times to reinforce it, okay? By all means, take the code with you tomorrow on your trip. Just tuck it in a pocket. Be discreet if you bring it out in public, please. All right? But what you have to do, very particularly at St. Margaret's or in the vicinity of St. Margaret's at Hopton, right, is to use any of the breathing forms that you've been taught over the last several months. If you feel most powerful with lotus, breathe 48-point lotus. If you feel most powerful using a iambic cellular, use that. If you feel, completely together with arc breathing, when you bring the rod up, you move the rod up and down, and the arc's coming in and out, use that. But use the one that doesn't seem, as it were, so impressive. Use the one that you feel most strength with, all right? Just breathe the breathing technique that feels appropriate in the moment, all right? Now, use that technique to run the code into the grids in the area that you're in, and just leave it there. You don't need to do anything else. Just make sure that you leave a good impression in every way. What? Do you want to say this? I finished them up. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was taking that for granted, but Matt is saying to remind you to use the Maharada prior to dropping. Okay. So what else? Nothing except lovely to see you all again. Absolutely lovely to see you all again. That'll do. We don't keep you late for dinner the first night. We'll do our best to be seeing you around about 10:30 on Sunday morning. I think we've got to run. Mac, does everybody know about what they're doing tomorrow, meeting time and everything? Does everyone have a copy of that? Okay, cool. Right. I was going to suggest that Jane had arranged some, but if you've got them, that's good. All right. Well, have a lovely supper and a great day tomorrow. I know you do the job really well and nicely, so we'll see you on Sunday, if not before sometime.
and then activating it later all at once as we go and plant seeds. So essentially we're just planting this code as a seed here in these grids. And that's just what we're going to be doing. So we're going to do that in a minute. And we're going to declare acoustic intention in doing this by the song Zera, which we can probably do out loud as long as we're not shouting. Okay. And we'll do what we can with this.
I know your name. I'm Linda. Linda, and I'm sorry. I'm just beginning now to sort you. Yes.
Film star, eh? He can walk again.
Iste ante satraja hera, petate oma shalom tai jayente dore, om shadayuri akum tam, om shadayuri akum tam, om shadayuri akum tam. Marata combi vectus in evo caio niblium bivectae, maha bivectae honore ornamur, iste unte isa treasure hera, petate oma shalom tai jayenta dore, om shadayuri akum tam, om shadayuri akum tam, om shadayuri akum tam.
Get more resistance to the other one. One more good.
Vectus demir, A.Channel tainua, oromata benita, ashueta fekira. Ijuenat, Ijura
And of course, you see me there. The bird says to go and sound loaded it. He said, come on down. I said, okay. Darlene, sit down.
Wait, who's cold? Thank you. We go like, if they don't want to be here, then they don't have to. It's for you.
For some intense technique work. The first technique we're going to be doing is the Flame of Ra and the Eyes of Ra activation. With the Lea Dore code up in front. Might want to focus on the code right now before we close our eyes. And spend a few moments just visualizing or intending the code at your forehead and draw it into the pineal gland. Okay, you can close your eyes now. And exhale breath, push the Lea Dore from the pineal to the azure. On an inhale, breath. And in an exhale, expand the Lea Dore outwards from the azure. On an inhale, pull it back, expanding Lea Dore just a little bit. And then on the exhale, expand it further out. Continue this breathing for a few moments. Inhaling, retracting on the inhale, and expanding it on the exhale. And we want to expand the code until the central area of the code completely surrounds the body. Okay, focus now on a small replica of the code at the azure. And on the next exhale breath, push the replica to the Yumbi point. And this time we're going to be expanding the breath, the code, the same way with the breath. Retracting on the inhale, expanding on the exhale from the Yumbi point. Again from that area until the code surrounds and permeates the entire body.
Okay, we're now going to visualize another small replica of the code at the Yumbi point. And on an exhale breath, we're going to push it from the Yumbi to the Rajna center. And from the Rajna center, we're going to do the same breathing pattern, retracting on the inhale, expanding on the exhale, and breathing from the Rajna point until the Lodore surrounds our entire body. And we're going to visualize another small replica of the Leodore code from the Rajna. And on the exhale breath, all the way down to the Mahadra center at Earth's core, pushing it down. And from there, again, the pattern of inhaling on the with a retraction and exhaling with an expansion. And continue until the central part of the code surrounds and permeates your body, extending as far as chakra 14. Above your head, all the way down to Earth's core. Now visualize or intend another replica of the Leodore at the Mahadra center, and exhale the replica from the Mahadra at Earth's core to the Adharana center 36 inches above the head. Again, repeat the expanding breath sequence as before until the central part of the Leodore surrounds and permeates your body, extending as far as chakra 14, 36 inches above the head, and all the way down to the Mahadra center. Preparing for the final stage of this technique, visualize or intend another replica of the Leodore at the Adharana center, 36 inches above the head. And on the exhale, push the replica to the Ra center, chakra 3, solar plexus area. Repeating the expanding sequence once more. Visualizing and intending the Leodore code expanding out from the Ra center until the 24 petal lotus center point permeates and surrounds the entire body. Maintaining focus on the Ra center and sensing or intending the Leodore code all around you and permeating you. Breathe on a 24-point axis from the Ra center. Keep breathing this way in a relaxed but very focused manner from the Ra center on a 24, 36, or 48-point axis, whatever's comfortable for you. Become aware of the Ra center as the control center for all the other Leodore ethos flame centers. You can now bring your attention back to the Leodore flame within the Leodore caverns and prepare to enter the Leodore flame of the parallel Eka to open your crystal body, Loda A, for Eka base shield bonding restoration. Intend the image of the Leodore caverns to emerge as a small speck of emerald light at the pineal gland. Slowly inhale on a 48-point axis from the Ross Center to fire the first Shala A 45 30-degree lotus petals in the Hanatulia state, and second Li Torre 45 spark, crisp spark. Hold the breath at full inhale to fire the third Leodore 90 crisp spark at automatic stop breath. Slowly inhaling a 48-point breath from the Ross Center, firing the first Shela 45, and second Litore, and third Leodore 90 crisp spark. Visualize Leodore code at the pineal. Then use the exhale breath to push the Leodore code into the Ross Center. As the code enters the Ross Center, observe as the Leodore caverns, the room in its central Leodore flame opens within your Rajna Center, expanding outward from a speck of emerald light at the pineal through the entire region of your brain, as if the Leodore caverns room suddenly opened up three-dimensionally inside your head. Breathing 48-point breaths from the Ross Center, and lean into the Leodore caverns. Imagine trying to sense the tangibility of its presence, while noticing that deep within the Leodore flame, a second emerald flame, the Leodore flame, expands outward, merging with the Leodore flame, forming the three-dimensional flame of Ra within the three-dimensional Leodore caverns, the room inside your head. Continue breathing 48-point Ross Center breaths. And as you do, observe that a large Akasha-shaped golden silver doorway opens within the flame of Ra within the Leodore caverns room in your head. Imagine now that you form a pale golden silver mini-self of replica of your body and project your mini-self into the golden silver Leodore doorway. You now have entered the Leodore flame. Breathing 48 points gently from the Ross Center while focusing your mental attention within the mini-self, inside of the Leodore flame, just beyond the golden silver doorway within the Leodore flame. Feel the flame. Feel the frequencies as they enter your mini-self body and physical body Ross centers on each inhale breath. Sense the merging of the Leodore 45 and the Leodore 45 frequencies within each cell of your physical body as the twin flames combine in your Ross center and cells to form the 90 charge flame of Ra. Continue 48-point breathing from the Ross Center. Call to mind the image of the Leodore code and command, intend that a replica of the Leodore code manifests within the Adrana triangulation and hypothalamus regions of your physical brain, as well as within the brain of your mini-self, within the Leodore flame. Inhale a 48-point breath from the raw centers of both your physical and mini-self, and hold this breath at full inhale. Imagine or command or intend that the Leodore codes in the Adrana triangulation and hypothalamus now replicate to form two sets of 3 identical Leodore codes. One set of 3 in the physical brain, the other set of 3 in the mini-self brain. With physical eyes open, exhale forcefully on a 3-point horizontal axis from the center of the physical and mini-self brains, using the exhale breath to push the 3 replicate Leodore codes in each brain outward and frontward. One Leodore code traveling outward through the third eye chakra, and the other two replicate codes simultaneously traveling forward through the optic chasm, the optical cords, and the eyeballs. Direct the optical projection lines to converge into a singular point about 6 feet in front of you, and observe as the Leodore codes merge into one convergent point. We'll go over this step again. With physical eyes open, exhale forcefully a 3-point horizontal axis from the center of the physical and mini-self brains, using the exhale breath to push the 3 replicate Leodore codes outward and frontward. One code replica traveling outward through the third eye chakra, and the other 2 replicate codes simultaneously traveling forwards through the optical chasm, the optical cords, and the eyeballs. Direct the optical projection lines to converge into a single point about 6 feet in front of you as you observe the 3 Leodore codes merge into a convergence point. Now draw a single inhale breath at the physical raw center and continue to draw the inhale breath upward and into the pineal center to coincide with the completion point of full inhale. Hold the breath at the pineal for a moment. And close your physical eyes and exhale the single point breath horizontally forwards from the pineal, out the third eye, and right on to the convergence point of the Leodore codes. And knowing as you exhale, imagine a command that the 3-dimensional Leodore caverns room inside your head travels and expands outward through chakra 6 to become 3-dimensionally manifest all around you as a 3-dimensional, 6-foot diameter etheric hologram sphere extending out from and all around the physical body. Again, we'll repeat this step, exhaling this single point horizontally forwards from the pineal, out the third eye chakra, and straight out to the convergence point of the Leodore codes. Exhaling, and in the image command intend that the 3-dimensional Leodore caverns room inside your head travels and expands outward through chakra 6 to become 3-dimensionally manifest all around you as a dimensional 6-foot diameter etheric hologram sphere extending out from and all around your physical body. Returning now to gentle 48-point raw center breathing, and sense the tangible, felt reality of the Leodore caverns, the room from the etheric hologram sphere all around your physical body. Just continue gentle 48-point raw center breathing. And intend your mini-self within the Leodore flame to now return to your physical body. Feel the 2 aspects of self merge as gentle breathing circulates the flame of raw frequencies through every cell. And notice now that this flame of raw circulation extends beyond your physical body and into your auric field and the 3-dimensional Leodore caverns etheric hologram around you. Keeping physical eyes closed, take a final 48-point inhale from the raw center and sense that the Leodore caverns room etheric hologram around you gently contracts back into chakra 6 and the pineal as you inhale into the raw center. Give the mental command intention to the Leodore cavern room to remain as an etheric emerald crystal that you can now place anywhere that you desire in your auric field or outside of it in another desired location, if that's what you choose. Exhale gently and slowly on a 48-point axis from the raw center and know that your flame of Ra And your eyes of Ra optical transmission lines are now activated. Just allow you to take a few moments between techniques here. Some powerful breathing going on in here. Okay, the Leodore un Ista Yun Hadra. That is the code we're going to begin or intend placing on our Ross center. So you want to do that now and begin printing it on your Ross center. When you feel you have it imprinted, just close your eyes and just feel it there for a moment. And with the code imprinted on the Ross Center, call to mind the emerald crystal storage vessel that houses the Li Torre Cavern's etheric hologram sphere. And mentally intend or visualize the emerald crystal at the center of the 48-petal lotus. Intend or visualize the 48-point lotus with the emerald crystal at its center over the Ross Center at Chakra 3. Bringing the palms into the prayer position at the Azare. As you inhale slowly and deeply from the Ross Center, drawing the 48-petal lotus with the emerald crystal center and the Leodore un Ista Yun Hadra code imprint into the Ross Center and upward into the pineal. Be aware that as the Leodore code imprint and the emerald crystal travel upward to the pineal, emerald crystal merge, becoming one, encrypting the Leodore a una Esta Yun Hadra code into the emerald crystal. With the encrypted emerald crystal at the center of the 48-petal lotus of the pineal, exhale gently on a horizontal projection line forwards and backwards from chakra 6, expanding the Li Torre cavern 6-foot holographic sphere outward all around you, while giving the mental command, eyes of Ra open. Inhale, and as you exhale, bring your hands out of the prayer position to the sides of the body, fingers into the lotus touch position. Taking a long, slow, horizontal 2-point inhale breath, inward along chakra 6, forward, front and back, rear projection line, back into the emerald crystal of the pineal, while mentally commanding the 6-foot eyes of Ra Li Torre caverns holographic sphere to remain extended all around you. Continue the inhale, drawing the emerald crystal and its 48-petal lotus downward with the last part of the inhale into chakra 4. Take a few relaxing breaths, and at the top of an inhale breath, briefly with the emerald crystal stationed at chakra 4, bring both hands with fingers in lotus touch up to rest lotus fingers gently on chakra 4. Keeping emerald crystal and 48-petal lotus in heart chakra, exhale slowly and gently on a forward-backward horizontal projection line from chakra 4, while giving the mental command, Heart of Ra, awaken. Use the exhale breath to expand the Li Torre caverns hologram sphere outward from chakra 4, all around you, until it expands to become a 12-foot holographic sphere. Few relaxing breaths. And on an inhale, back along the projection line into chakra 4 center, while intending that the 12-foot holographic sphere remains expanded from chakra 4. Continue inhaling, using the last part of the breath to draw the emerald crystal and the 48-petal lotus from chakra 4 downward to the Umbi. On an inhale breath, holding at the top of the inhale with the emerald crystal and 48-petal lotus stationed at the Umbi 1 and 2 inches below the navel. While holding the breath, move the hands to the Umbi and place lotus touch fingers gently on the Umbi, exhaling on a 2-point forward-backward projection line. While leaving the emerald crystal 48-petal lotus in the Umbi. Again, on an exhale breath, using the exhale to expand the Li Torre caverns holographic sphere outward to become 24-foot diameter sphere all around you. On an exhale breath, give the mental command, Seat of Ra, awaken. Inhale back along the Umbic horizontal line into the Umbi, then downward, using the last part of the inhale breath to draw the emerald crystal down to a point in the central vertical current directly across from the top of the knees, just above the kneecaps. Release your fingers and hands from the lotus touch position and allow arms and hands to relax at your sides. Then slowly exhale on a horizontal forward-backward axis from the knee point between your knees in the central vertical current. Leaving emerald crystal 48-petal lotus at a knee point, use the exhale breath to expand the Li Torre caverns holographic sphere outward from the knee point until it expands to 48 feet diameter sphere, all around you. And as you do this, give the mental command, Throne of Ra awaken, as the knee point sphere expands. Inhale back along the knee point horizontal projection line, while intending the 48-foot holographic sphere remains expanded all around you. Take several natural resting breaths from the knee point, while the emerald crystal and lotus remain stationed there. Just take several relaxing breaths from the knee point. The zendradon cell and radius line activation. Focusing our attention on the emerald crystal at the center of the 48-petal lotus stationed at the knee point. Just continue deep, relaxing breaths. And inhaling from the knee point, and hold and inhale at the knee point for a moment. And then rapidly exhale a single point breath from the knee point downward to push the crystal rapidly down to the Earth's core. And on an inhale breath, as soon as the emerald crystal enters the Mahadra, use a strong, rapid breath to draw the crystal all the way up to chakra 14. Breathing from now from chakra 14. Take a breath and hold it for a moment. And giving the mental command as you hold the breath, eyes of Ra unfold. Release the inhale internally into the emerald crystal at chakra 14. Breathing easy now. And observe and imagine that the emerald crystal at chakra 14 slowly but steadily ignites into a brilliant golf ball-sized spherical starburst with Manu pale emerald green, pale gold silver, and pale violet silver pink heliotalic rays emanating outward from its interior center point. Just continuing breathing gently now from chakra 14, and observe that the emerald crystal starburst is communicating energetically with the 4 Li Torre holographic spheres expanded around you. And as this communication takes place, observe as each of the 4 Li Torre spheres also begin to radiate beautiful heliotalic starbursts, rays of pale emerald green, pale golden silver, pale violet silver pink, until the 4 holographic spheres become a set of radiating, shimmering starbursts, 1 6-foot in diameter, 1 12-foot, and 1 24-foot, and another a 48-foot in diameter. Inhale a 48-petal lotus breath from chakra 14. Another inhale breath, then rapidly exhale, using the exhale to push the starburst crystal downward all the way down to chakra 14 to enter the Mahadra at Earth's core at the point of exhale completion. When the starburst emerald crystal enters the Mahadra, take an inhale breath quickly, using the rapid inhale at the Mahadra to draw this emerald starburst upward to a point in your central vertical current that lies directly between your feet. Take another breath and hold this inhale. As the emerald crystal enters this point, the point between the feet is the location of the density 1 Nadran seal cell center seal and is called the Nadra key. Continue holding the breath at the top of the inhale, the Nadra key, for a moment. Now exhale forcefully into the center of the golden starburst at the Nadra key. Take another breath and exhale forcefully, saying, Staff of Ra, receive. Just continue breathing now from the feet point Nadra key. As you observe the awakening of the etheric atomic pillar of power. Breathe easy now while observing that the Nadra key feet point opens around the starburst emerald crystal, and the starburst emerald crystal enters, then disappears through this Nadra key doorway at the feet point. When the starburst emerald crystal disappears, a gentle internal vibration begins spreading from the Nadra key point, upward and downward through the central vertical current. As this vibration extends to simultaneously enter both the Adrana at chakra 14 and the Mahadra core, a beautiful transformation takes place within the 4 Li Torre holographic starburst spheres around you. As the Eka Li Torre caverns holograms merge with the Li Adore parallel Eka twin spheres. Notice that as the Adrana above and the Mahadra below receive the Nadra key vibration, that the Ra center in chakra 3 releases a brilliant flash of pale gold and silver Eka light, and in response, the long dormant etheric ethos Ka center in chakra 2, the sacral center, releases a brilliant flash of pale silver pink parallel Eka Adane light. After the Ka center flashes, chakra 2 and chakra 3 open, and they expand, and they merge through the Yumbi ethos flame. As the dimensional 2 Grual control, the Nadradon cell emerges from the dimension 2 Nadra key center in the Yumbi flame, expanding the center seed seals in chakra 2 and 3, linking the Ra and the Ka centers and their chakras together through the pale violet silver pink D2 Nadradon cell. As the D2 Nadradon cell awakens, the 4 Lia Torre cavern holographic spheres around you flash brilliantly. First, a beautiful Yane pale golden silver flash, then an iridescent Adane pale silver violet pink flash, and the 4 spheres merge into one huge pale violet silver pink holographic starburst sphere that extends outward for 90 feet in all directions around you. Observe and try to feel the reality of the Najandra cell activation taking place within you. Listen with your inner hearing to hear the chorus of music of the spheres that begins releasing into the atomic structure once the etheric dimensions 1 through 5 Nadra sheath around the D1 atomic pillar releases through the Nadradon cell activation. As the 4th holographic spheres emerge, the Nadra atomic sheath barrier dissolves, preparing the atomic structure for the pillar of power activation. And the Till EA breathing, observe that as these activations unfold within your body, that your 24 PCM lotus points all around become pale violet silver pink starburst spheres with an emerald flame containing the pale gold and silver light within them. As the inner pillar 24 lotus points turn on, the Adane light, the 24 Lodi points of your D1.5 through D11.5 photospheres turn on, followed by the 24 Lodum points of your D12.5 logosphere, finally followed by the 24 Loda points of your D13.5 lotosphere and prima light field. As the 24 Loda points activate the long dormant radius lines connected through the Lodi point sets and into the etheric atomic center pillar, also turning on, preparing the crystal body and manifest anatomy for the pillar of power activation, release of the sextant pin, rising of the ethos, and the return of the till EA breathing. Once the radius lines activate through the 96 PCM Lodi points, the density 1 Nadran cell emerges from the feet point, density 1 Nadra key seal, expanding a sphere of pale violet silver pink starburst upwards to the lower calves and the legs, and downwards into the Maharak shield 12 inches below your feet, opening the Maharak shield center seal to the Eka Matradon cell, the pillar of power flow. The feet chakra seed seals open and initiate Li Adore current flow within the etheric body, setting the carrier wave through which the ethos etheric pillar of power can rise. And once the sextant pin releases, to reinstate the potential of natural eternal life, Tilia breathing and progressive atom recharge. Once this activation is completed, the Najadran cell remains activated and ready to receive transmutation of its unnatural buckybar radiation matrix harness through progressive application of pillar of power ethos, rising Kathara technologies, until ethos pillar rising technologies are employed. Breathing the Nadradon cell energies should be done only through the protective filter of the Ra center. Once the sextant pin is released and the ethos pillar ascent is initiated, etheric atomic healing, recharge, and amplification can be done by Til EA breathing directly through the Nadran cell and the pillar of power. We continue. I'm just going to take give everybody like a 5-minute stretch. You can stay here or just move about. Or up on there, the positions of the rods that we're talking about at the moment. So everybody's on the same page. Okay, so I invite you now to sit back down. Is everybody back? Still see some people wandering out there? Okay, I'll give her a minute. Okay. So I invite you to close your eyes. Okay, I'm going to begin by inhaling a 48-petal encrypted lotus breath at chakra 3 Ra center, using the inhale to draw the lotus down to the density nadra seal at feet point in the central vertical current in the space midpoint between the feet. Holding this breath at the nadra key for a few moments. Forcefully exhale a 2-point horizontal left-right projection breath from the nadra key feet point, using the breath to push the encrypted lotus into the ethos seat stationed at the nadra key, then outwards through the ethos rod, giving the mental command, Ra of Ka, awaken. Inhale a single-point breath from the nadra key and the ethos seat atom. Hold this breath at the nadra key briefly, then exhale forcefully, using the breath to push the 48-petal lotus from the nadra key at feet point downward into the Mahadra at Earth's core. When the lotus enters the Mahadra at the bottom, use this breath, inhaling upward to the Azare, and hold this inhale with the lotus stationed there. Immediately raise and extend both arms outward and to your sides at shoulder level. Then exhale a 2-point horizontal right-left projection breath from the Azare, leaving the 48-petal lotus stationed at the Azare, while using the exhale to push the 2 currents of pale violet, silver-pink Leodore frequency from the seed atom outward along the PCM density rods to the monadic balls at the rod endpoints. Giving the mental command, Rod of Ra, awaken. Inhale and hold 2-point breath back to the Azare from the rod endpoints, while bringing your arms down and into a resting position on your lap. Sit up straight while holding the inhale at the Azare, then bend forwards and place the palms of your hands over the top of your feet chakras. Left palm over top of left foot, right palm over right foot. Now exhale a powerful 2-point horizontal right-left projection breath from the Azare down at the Leodore A arm cords, through the palms and into the foot chakras. And then horizontally outward. The current flows from the left arm cord through the left foot to the left side, ditto on the right side. Breathe gently for a moment from the Azare, keeping the hands over the foot chakras, and sensing and feeling for a wave-like vibration extending across the ethos rod at the feet. Then observe, sense, or feel as this vibration extends into the arms, the Azare, and then through the entire body. The vibration feels like a series of rippling, circular, rhythmic, cyclic waves of greater and greater intensity moving through your fields, as if you were a pond into which a pebble has been dropped. While hands remaining on your feet, breathe gently from the Azare, while this etheric, Adore wave intensifies until it reaches its peak, at which point, after 60 to 90 seconds, the intensity begins to ebb, and you may notice a still point is reached, and the vibrating wave ceases. After the etheric Adore wave ebbs to stillness, sit up straight, but do so slowly, and being gentle with yourself, bringing your palms to rest on your knees, keeping your eyes closed and breathing gently from the Azare, calming and stabilizing the fields. We're just going to breathe for a few moments now, as everyone's field stabilizes. If there's anybody feeling a bit dizzy, please just raise your hand and let me know. Now that the biosystem has stabilized, inhale a gentle 48-petal lotus from the Ra center. Hold briefly, then exhale forcefully using the breath to push the new 48-petal lotus down to the Mahadra at Earth's core. With the new 48-petal lotus entering the Mahadra, inhale rapidly at the Mahadra, using the inhale to draw the 48-petal lotus upward into the Ka center, chakra 2. Then exhale rapidly at the Ka, using the exhale to push a starburst to pale violet silver pink frequency outward and through the Ka center, chakra 2. Giving the mental command, flame of Ka awaken. Breathing gently from the Ra center for a moment. Then inhale and exhale gently into the Nadraki at the feet point. Thereafter resuming a gentle rhythmic breathing pattern, but with your breath focused directly from the Nadraki point. Breathing from the key point at your feet. Breathing gently and continuously. I'm going to go into the Loka, frequency breathing movements, and Jane's going to lead through.
Okay, so we need to make some space. So the third one, we're going to be lying on our backs with our feet towards our bums. So just have to make some space, please. You might need to push chairs out of the way or whatever. Try and keep, while you're moving around the room, in the space where you're keeping your consciousness on the breathing between your feet. Even if you're doing something practical, keep with it. Okay? We're going to go through it slowly, because this is to stabilize our fields. So if we all stand on our feet now, please. Okay, have your feet hip width apart and knees bent a little bit so that they're soft. And this is the one where, we're not going to do it yet, I'll just remind you. This is the one where on the exhale, you lead from your head and your neck then your shoulders, then your spine, until your hands reach down as far as they can for today. Okay? And we're just going to stay there for a little bit and breathe. And then we're going to curl up. And when you curl up, please be conscious of your backs. All right. Okay, so breathing in from your feet, point the Nadra key point. And curl down with head first, neck, shoulders, keeping your knees soft. Curl the back down. Breathing from the point between your feet. Just stay there for a bit. Into the stretch, breathing into the stretch. On the next inhale, come up slowly. If you need to take 2 inhales to get up, do that. Just come up slowly at your own pace. Breathing in. Slowly uncurling. Slowly, slowly. Shoulders, neck, and then head last. We'll wait a little bit. Bring your consciousness back to the breathing between your feet. And we'll repeat. So take a nice deep inhale, and on the exhale, curl down. Head first. Stay there for a little while. Inhale and slowly come up, keeping your knees bent. Lower back, then middle, then upper. Head last. Stay there for a little while. Bring your consciousness back to the point between your feet and breathe from there. And we'll do that again. So breathing in and curl down. Okay, and then come up on the next inhale, keeping the knees bent. Be careful with your backs. And just stay there for a little bit. If you've temporarily lost your focus, bring it back to the point between the feet. We'll just stay there for a minute to remind ourselves That's where our point of focus is right now. So we can take our feet a little bit further apart. We've got a nice stable base. This time we keep our legs straight, but our knees are not locked. They're not tight. Okay. So this is where we reach up and we bring our right arm over to our left leg. Just take the stretch as far as you can today. Some people will get their arms down to their ankles. So we'll do it together because we need to keep the breathing going. Some people will just be able to get to their hip. You just take it as far as you can. Take it until you feel the stretch. And that's all you need to worry about, not what anyone else is doing. Okay? So, breathing in, both arms. I'll just do it with one. And on the exhale, bend over, bringing your right arm to your left leg. Breathe in again, lifting the left arm up, and you can look at it if you can, if you want to take it to the full extent. If you can't, just don't worry, just stay to your full extent and breathing. We'll stay there for a little while. If you want to come up or you want to release the stretch, you do so, okay? Breathing in, and on the exhale, bring the left arm down. Hold both legs and just pull your body in towards your legs a little bit. Breathing in, and then exhale, bring your body towards your legs just to stretch out that lower back a bit. Okay. Inhale and move your left hand to your right ankle, and then your right arm up towards the ceiling if you can. Keep the breathing from the feet. And on the exhale, bring that arm down. Bend the legs just a little bit and curl up real gradual like you did before on the inhale. We'll stay there for a little bit and stabilise for a bit. Bringing our focus back gently to the point between our feet. Breathing from there. Okay, so we repeat that again, stretching up. Right arm to left leg on the exhale. Inhale, lifting the left arm up and looking at it if you're taking the stretch to its full extent. And staying there for a little while. Coming down to the centre again on the exhale. Just pull in a little bit towards the legs, giving that lower back a little stretch. Don't overstretch. Okay, on the next exhale, when you're ready, you move your left leg over to your right, left arm over to your right leg and your right arm up to the ceiling when you're ready. And on your next exhale, coming back down and come up on the inhale. When you're doing the movement, leave enough energy to focus on the breathing. Don't put all your energy into the movement. So if that means you don't stretch quite as much, then so be it. You need to leave enough energy so that you can think about the breathing. All right? Okay, so I'll just stabilize for a bit. We'll try again. Ready? Exhale and bring your right arm down. Bring your left arm up if you're at that stage and breathing from the point between the feet. Coming back down to the centre. Pulling in and releasing that back. Breathing in, and on the exhale, moving the left arm over to the right leg. And looking up towards the right if you're at that stage. And breathe into the stretch. Coming back down on the exhale. Coming up on the inhale. Sometimes you'll find that your breathing will go forceful and pushy, and it will be pushing through the stretch a little bit. And sometimes it will go slowly and it will be easing. So try and just be aware of that. So if my breath suddenly, goes strong, it doesn't necessarily mean yours needs to. All right? You need to listen to your own bodies and your own breath. Okay. Right, so lying on the back now, please, with feet flat on the floor, knees bent, and bring your feet towards your bums. I'm just going to explain this once, and then I think you can do it yourselves. All right? I'll lead you through it once, and then you make sure you do the movement 3 times in all. Okay? Make sure with this that there's enough room behind you, because you're going to be lifting your arms over your head. Okay? Right, I'll take you through it. So bring your arms back once you know you've got enough space. Come a bit. I can go there. Okay. Okay, so let's bring our focus back to the point between our feet. We'll just breathe there for a minute. Okay. So on the next inhale, lift both arms, keeping them straight, up over the head to the floor, and allow your back to naturally tilt. Don't press it into the floor, so the lower back will get a nice little tilt on it. Okay, so breathe there. And you don't need to do it now, but in your own time, when you've fulfilled that stretch, you bring your arms back on the exhale and allow your back to sink back into the floor. Okay, so just do it in your own time. And then you repeat that whole movement again 2 more times. Okay. We're just going to stay there for a little while in this position, breathing from the space between the feet. So you can stay in that position for as long as you want. We need to break for 15 minutes before we go on to the next activation. So stay there, I suggest, for a few minutes, because it's very powerful. And when you're ready to move, please do so. But we need as a group to to not break the energy. So if you get up and walk around, just be aware of the energy and continue to breathe from that point between the feet. Keep bringing your awareness back to it, and just stay in a gentle space. And we will do the next part of the activation in 15 minutes' time.
It's not very long, and then we're going to go into the locust positions. So you might just want to stay where you're going to be for the locust positions. Okay, so I invite everybody to sit comfortably. Next phase of this activation is called the Till-EA Zendradon Complex Electrical Activation, activating the etheric lotus arc sets, arc breathing, and cycling the petal arcs. So as we sit comfortably, just begin to breathe, returning our focus and attention to the Nadra key point at the feet. Just continue to breathe there for a moment or two. Becoming fully focused from that point. We're going to begin by inhaling a 48-point encrypted lotus from the Nadra key up to the Ross center at chakra 3. And an inhale, hold. And then exhale forcefully, using the breath to expand many rays of pale violet, silver, pink, Adare frequency outward and through this Ross center. You may observe that the Ross center released a starburst flash of pale violet, silver, pink light. Inhale into the lotus at the Ross center and on down to the Kas center. Hold this breath at the top of the inhale at the Kas center at chakra 2, and then exhale forcefully from the center, using the breath to expand many rays of pale golden silver Iatore frequency outward and through the Kas center at chakra 2. You may observe that the Kas center released a starburst flash of pale golden silver Iatore light. Inhaling for the Yumbi point, a half inch, 2 inches below the navel, using the breath to draw both the Ra and the Kas center, chakra 2 and 3, together to form a Bhaiveka fold within the ethos flame at the Yumbi. You can imagine this as two vertically overlapping spheres within an Akasha-shaped flame. Inhale and exhale at the Yumbi, and observe as chakras 2 and 3, the Ra and Kas centers, expand back out of the Yumbi, returning to their original positions, while leaving a pale violet silver pink Ra and a golden silver Ka crystal with a Yumbi ethos flame. Observe that the two crystals are fused together in a Bhaiveka fold. Inhale the fused Bai, Veka, Ra, Ka crystals from the Umbi upward to the Azare. And hold this inhale within the Ka, Ra center crystal at the Azare, and exhale forcefully on a 6-petal lotus from the Azare, observing as the Ka, Ra crystal replicates to form a 6 Ra, Ka crystals, each projected along the lines of the 6 projection lines. Inhale gently, drawing each of the 6 Ka-Ra crystal replicas back simultaneously along their perspective axis projection line and into merger with the 7th original Ka-Ra crystal at the Azare. And as you notice that during this gentle inhale, the 2 top diagonal 45-degree axis lotus petal arcs and the 2 bottom diagonal 45-degree axis lotus petal arcs begin to contract, moving inwards towards the stationary upper and lower vertical petals. Exhaling gently from the Azare, using the breath to push the 7 Ka-Ra crystals from the Azare downward to the Nadra Key feet point. Notice as you exhale, the 4 diagonal axis lotus petal arcs expand back outward again to their 45-degree axis. Inhale gently from the Nadra Key point, keeping 7 Ka-Ra crystals stationed there. Exhale and inhale, breathing into the Nadra Key, noticing that the 4 diagonal axis lotus petal arcs around you again contract within the inhale, folding into 2 vertical petal arcs. Breathe gently from the Nadra Key point, feet directly, observing, intending that on each Nadra Key, inhale, the diagonal petal arcs contract into the vertical petal arcs, and on each exhale, the diagonal petal arcs expand and return to their 45-degree axis projection line positions. Just continue to breathe, and you may want to play with these Nadra Key, inhale, exhale, varying the speed of breathing while keeping the diagonal lotus petal arcs expanding in contraction, in synchronization with each inhale and exhale breath. This technique is called cycling the petal arcs. And again, for a few minutes, continue to breathe gently in this way and continuously from the Nadra Key. Okay, Jane is going to now be leading us through the rest of the locust positions. After that, again, we're going to do the same procedure. Need to go into about a 20-minute break after that.